I've sat face to face with Islamic terrorists like I'm sitting with you now who have told me what we are doing is mandated in the Quran.
What steps does America need to take, attitudinal, policy-wise, to protect us from the threat of Islamic terrorism?
Jason, that's the greatest question yet. It's a question the Obama administration refuses to answer. The first thing we have to do is acknowledge the enemy, acknowledge who we're fighting. Know your enemy. Sun Tzu, it's the first rule of war, know your enemy. It's the ideology. I actually have a chapter in the book saying, it's the ideology, stupid. We had a few liberal pundits a few years ago wrote, it's the economy, stupid. Well, when it comes to this war, it is all about Islamist ideology. Poverty is not the root cause of the terrorist threat we're facing. Israel is certainly not the cause of the terrorist threat we're facing. It's Islamic ideology, and the scary little secret here, the dirty little secret, I got to lay it out here. I don't mince words in this book, Jason. It can be traced back to, yes, Islam's core texts. It can be traced back to the Quran and the Hadiths. This isn't me just saying that. I've sat face to face with Islamic terrorists like I'm sitting with you now who have told me what we are doing is mandated in the Quran. This is Quranically inspired actions that we're taking. So wouldn't it behoove our leadership, Jason, to actually perhaps pick up the Quran, maybe read these books? You think back to the 1980s, you think back to during the Cold War, you think of a guy like Ronald Reagan, who 30 years before he became president, devoured everything he could get his hands on about Marxism, Stalinism, the Soviet Union. By the time he became president, he knew the enemy, he knew their weaknesses, he knew exactly how to win. And we won the Cold War because we understood the enemy and their ideology. Fast forward now to 2011, and let's take a straw poll. How many members on either side of the aisle, Democrat or Republican, have actually read the Quran, read the Hadiths? If this is where our enemy is getting their inspiration, shouldn't we take at least a cursory glance at these books, and not a politically correct glance? Don't go in with your preconceived notions. Go in with intellectual honesty. The Islamist peace crowd, I'm sorry. Anyone who looks at Islam's history, both current, recent, and ancient history of Islam, who looks at, quite frankly, the example of Islam's prophet Muhammad, who was a warrior, and who looks at Islam's core texts, anyone with a shred of intellectual honesty cannot say with a straight face that Islam is peace. I'm sorry. It's politically correct, but politically incorrect, but hey, that's why I wrote the book. This is no time to mince words. This is an existential threat. This is us, not only us, this is our kids, our grandkids, future generations that we're talking about. It's a time for honesty, it's a time for boldness, and let's ignore. The first thing this administration can do is stop lying to the American people. Stop telling the American people that these are just isolated extremists. They're not part of a larger movement. And in fighting al-Qaeda, in fighting back against this movement, stop emboldening people like the Muslim Brotherhood, who are not moderate. At the end of the day, final thought on this, Jason, the Muslim Brotherhood and al-Qaeda. And this is crucially important, I lay it out in the book, because the Obama administration has identified the Muslim Brotherhood as their main outreach partners. The Brotherhood's the enemy. And I lay out in the book, Brotherhood, al-Qaeda, different tactics. Al-Qaeda has a win-now strategy. The Muslim Brotherhood is a more patient, chip-away strategy of getting involved in the halls of power, etc. But at the end of the day, the end game is the same. Islamic Sharia law and the reestablishment of the Islamic Caliphate. There's a reason that Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, al-Qaeda's top 3 leaders, belonged to the Muslim Brotherhood as young men. And it wasn't because the Brotherhood was singing Kumbaya and going to synagogue services, I can assure you.